Okay. Haven't recorded all day. All right, a solution is the same thing as a root. And you can find the root of an equation by examining the graph of a related function. A related function is found by solving the equation for 0 and then replacing 0 with y. All right, so values of x are also called zeros, which are also your x-intercepts. I want you to highlight or circle these 4 words on page 75 because these 4 words are synonyms. They're synonyms for each other and they can be used interchangeably. So you have to know that if it's asking you for the solution, that's the same thing as your x-intercept. So when I'm looking at this graph, the solution is the x-intercept. And where is the x-intercept for this graph? Not the y-intercept, it's the x-intercept that tells you the solution. -2. So the solution for this particular line function is -2. Another way to find that, though, would be, because you have to remember the definition, going back to module 1, we took our test on, to find the x-intercept, you substitute y with 0. So I want you to look at this equation that Julian had us fix. This y equals 2x plus 4. Another way would be to put a 0 here. Go ahead and replace the y with a 0. Somewhere off to the side, write 0 equals 2x plus 4 and solve that for x. So how would you solve this equation? If 0 equals 2x plus 4, what would be your first step to solve this for x? Subtract the 4. So Joanna says subtract the 4. So -4 equals 2x and divide by 2. And when we do that, notice that we get the exact same answer that we had from looking at the graph, which is -2 equals x. Okay, so I just wanted to reiterate that there are 2 different ways to find your solution. Solution, root, 0, x-intercept. Same answer, -2. All right, so let's look at example 5, which is on page 76. And let's analyze this graph to find our solution. So it says the Empire State Building run-up is a race in which athletes run up the building's 1,576 stairs. In 2003, Paul Craik set the record for the fastest time, running up an average of about 165 stairs per minute. The function, let's go ahead and highlight that, or underline or circle it. This is the function that we're working with, okay? That represents the number of steps that he had left to climb after m minutes. So we have to find the 0 of the function. Now, remember, let's go back, that another word for 0 is what? What's another word for 0 when you're looking at a graph? X-intercept. So when you see this on the test, if you have a graph and I'm asking you to find the 0, that means I want the x-intercept. So let's estimate, and we're estimating, which means it's not going to be exact. Do you know what that word estimate means? estimate is like a guess, okay? We're just trying to take a guess. So looking at this graph, it touches the x-axis right here. And what is that? Approximately, where is the x-intercept? Write x-intercept next to the word 0. Okay, so approximately, where would you say that red dot is? 9.5, I would agree. So the x-intercept is about 9.5. So that means that Paul Craik finished the race in about 9.5 minutes, or 9 minutes and how many seconds? What's 0.5 of a minute is how many seconds? 30. Okay. So that's what we guesstimate from looking at a graph. So now let's look at step 3, where we actually solve it to figure that out, because we're just taking a guess. So looking at step 3, to solve it algebraically, substitute 0 for C. So 0 for C. 0 would go here. Go ahead and solve this equation for M. Solve that for M. And that's how we can find the exact. So we looked at the graph to get the approximate. Now let's find the exact by solving it. So how would I solve this equation? All right, I heard add 165. That sounds pretty good. That's a good idea. Let's do that. Now, I want to also make sure you understand that you could also subtract the 1,576. Okay. Add 165 M. So I have 165 M equals 1576. All right, now what? How do we solve for M? Divide both sides by what? By who? What am I dividing by? Dividing by 165. You guys are talking so low. Go ahead and put this in your calculator. And that's going to give us the exact answer. So we looked at the graph to get the approximate. Now we're going to find the exact answer. We're not going to round it because they didn't round it. We're going to go to the hundredths place. So what did you get when you put 1,576 divided by 165? What'd you guys get? 1.55? Who got 9.55? Okay. So, and if we look at that, notice how that's just a little bit more accurate. Because if we go back, there is no way that we would know that that point is really 9.55, right? We can't tell that 9.55 from looking at a graph. That's why looking at a graph is only going to get you close to the answer. But to find the real and the exact answer, we need to solve it. So the exact answer is 9.55, which is about 9 minutes. And instead of 30 seconds, it's actually about 33 seconds. So we were close. The graph gets us close. But to get there exactly, we need to use the algebra behind it. All right, any questions about this example? Yes. Okay, good question. So how many seconds are in a minute? 60. So take 60 times, now we're going to take it times that decimal, which is 0.55. So in your calculators, take 60 times 0.55. And that's how you figure out how many seconds 0.55 of a minute would be. So did you get 33? Yeah. Yes. Thank you for asking that question. You know, I teach this 5 times, and sometimes I forget what not to say. You know, I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't say that. Yeah, I need to say that. All right, let's talk about inequalities. So let's flip in our books all the way to page 78, and let's talk about a linear inequality, which is a little different from an equation. Now, what I want you to write in your notes is that when you multiply or divide by a negative. Now, inequalities are special because when we multiply or divide by a negative, we have to do something. Does anybody remember what we have to do when you divide or multiply? Gabby? Flip it. Yep, we have to flip the sign. So go ahead and write that in your notes, because solving inequalities is a big part of homework 8, which is due tomorrow. And it's also going to be a big part of your test, which is September 20th. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this out. How would you solve it? What would be your first step? To solve it for n, and we have to graph it on the number line. Subtract what? Can we take out our earbuds? Thank you. So what am I subtracting? 12.9. Let's go ahead and subtract 12.9 from both sides. Because we have to solve for n, and that's how you solve. You have to get it by itself. So you have negative 5.6n is greater than or equal to. Take your calculators and type this in. Take negative 71.1 minus 12.9. Did you need a calculator? Is there any calculators over there? Emerson needs a calculator. No, we don't have one. Oh, you don't need one. Okay. Yep. Who got 84? Is it positive or negative 84? All right, so negative 84. All right, now what do we need to do? How do I get rid of the negative 5.6? Divide it, because you have to do the opposite. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 5.6. And when you divide by a negative, that's why I started with this, what happens to the sign? It doesn't cancel. What happens to this sign? It flips. So it changes from a greater than equal to a less than equal to. Go ahead and take your calculator. Take negative 84 divided by negative 5.6. Who got 15? All right, so now we need to graph it. Now that is the new thing that we have to do, that we don't have to do if this is an equal sign. If it's an equal sign, we don't have to graph it. But if it's an inequality, we do have to graph it, okay? What kind of a circle do I put on the number line? So 15 is going to be in between 14 and 16. It's going to be a closed dot. So put a closed dot on the number line at 15. So let's go ahead and put our closed dot. Now, what direction am I drawing my arrow? If it's less than, is it going to the left or does it go to the right? Left. So draw an arrow going to the left, which is that direction. And that is it. Go ahead and read example 7. We got one more question and then we'll get started on homework 8. Or finishing it really, because we got a lot of it done yesterday. So read question 7. Okay, last question. It says, the recommended daily intake of calcium for teens is 1,300 milligrams. Jake gets 237 milligrams of calcium from a vitamin he takes each morning and 302 milligrams from each glass of skim milk that he drinks. How many glasses of milk would Jake need to drink to meet the recommendation? So the first thing we want to do is define variables. So we decided to use the letter G. You can use any variable between A and Z, but we're going to use G. Please, can you sit up for me, please? So what do you think G is going to represent? What does G represent? Yep, glasses of milk. Good. And how many milligrams of calcium does he get from his vitamin every day? 237. So we got 237. So what we're doing is writing our inequality. So 237 plus 302 per glass. And he wants to get at least 1,300. So that has to be greater than or equal to 1,300. So go ahead and solve this for G. So I'm just going to write this off. I'm going to write it again. Go ahead and solve this inequality for G. See what you get. When you get an answer, raise your hand and I'll tell you if it's right. Yep, solve it out. Good. So what I do like about this book is it does kind of give you the steps. And what did it say do first? You always start by moving what's not attached to the variable. So I saw a lot of you try to subtract 302, but you can't subtract the 302. 302 is not a like term to 1,300 because that's 302G. Okay, so we can't do anything with that first. We're going to start by subtracting 237. And when you subtract that, you get 302. I'm going to write off to the side because I'm out of space. So you get 302G is greater than or equal to, what is 1,300 minus 237? 1,000. Who has 1,063? All right, now we can eliminate the 302. But the 302 is being multiplied by the glasses of milk. And what's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So divide by 302. So G, if you round it, you would get something close to 3.5. I'm going to say 3.5. 3.52 is fine also. So if Jake wants to get the calcium he needs to take his vitamin and drink at least 3.5 glasses of milk or more. If he drinks only 3.5, then he'll get 1,300. If he drinks more, then he'll have more than 1,300. Take out your homework. Let's go to homework 8. Couple of questions. How far did we get yesterday? Oh, is it time? Is that time? You can go ahead. Gabby, go. Oh, okay. All right. This is the time where he goes to meet his girlfriend every day. But he says he has to go to the bathroom, but. Okay. Yeah, but hurry up. Yeah, okay. It's always the same time. 2:10. Every day. Okay. All right. Where did we leave off yesterday? We got pretty far. We got to 16.
We got 6 more questions. We're on question 23.
23. Is 23 the graph? Look at, is 23 the graph? Can I look in your book?
Yeah.
All right, let's look at question number 23, y'all. Let's go. Sorry, I'm all in your book. All right, 23. So let's look at question number 23. We have to solve that 2 different ways. 2 different ways. So the first part is to estimate it. You're going to estimate it by looking at the graph. Now, if I'm trying to look for the solution, where on the graph do I look? Where did it say? Go back to page 75 if you don't remember. But where do I look on a graph to find the solution? Is it the x-intercept or the y-intercept?
X.
Who says x? Who says y? It's x. So looking at that graph, I want you to estimate what your x-intercept is. And that is your answer to part A. So estimate the x-intercept. What does it appear to be?
Can we say 5.5 or not?
Yeah, it's an estimate. That's the thing about an estimate. You know, it's like, what do you think it is? You're not going to be exactly right. You could say 5.5. Somebody else could say 6. Somebody else could say 5.8. It's an estimate.
We put that for A on.
That's part A. So part A says, use the graph to estimate, which means it's a guess, to the nearest tenth, the number of weeks Nalia can purchase school lunches with the money she deposited at the beginning of the quarter. So your estimate is what you see. So what do you think it is for part A? That works. Whatever you think it is, it's an estimate. It's not going to be exact. Now part B will be exact, because for part B, you're going to take the equation and solve it. So the equation says M equals 100 minus 18W. So you're going to put a 0 in at the beginning. 0 equals 100 minus 18W. So for part A, that's a guess. That's a guess. For part B, when you solve it, you're going to get the correct exact answer. So go ahead and finish that out. Is that my phone?
Oh, yeah.
I just left my phone on your desk. Okay. After you do that, let's go to number 31. You're on your own for those inequalities in between. But I want to talk about 31 because 31 is a word problem and we don't like word problems. So let's talk about it. I don't know. Ask your friends. What did you all get for part B? You got 5.6? They said 5.6. What does it say in the directions? It says rounded to the nearest hundredths place. So I need 2 numbers. So it should be 5 point, and I need 2 numbers. 5.56. Yes. All right, next question. So you can do those inequalities. So let's look at 31 and 32. And then we'll end there. So let's look at 31 and 32 because I know that, again, word problems are tricky. So let's look at question 31. It says, Manuel takes a job translating English instruction manuals to Spanish. He will receive $15 per page plus $100 per month. Manuel plans to work for 3 months during the summer and wants to make at least $1,500. All right, so we need to write an inequality. How will we do that? Let's start it off. How much does he make per page? Let's start off with that. So 15p plus Yes, because it's 100 a month, but he is going to do it for 3 months. So if he was only going to translate pages for 1 month, we would just say plus 100. But he's going to do it for the whole summer. And he wants to make at least 1,500. So does that mean greater than or equal to 1,500? So greater than or equal to. So this is your inequality. Go ahead and solve that for P. And I will let you do that one on your own. Okay. Go ahead, solve it, compare it with your neighbor. Say, neighbor, what you get. See if they got the same thing. Hopefully you got a good neighbor. He my favorite. I can't lie. Okay, number 32 says on a conveyor belt, there can only be 2 boxes moving at a time. The total weight of the boxes cannot be more than 300 pounds. Let X and Y represent the weight of the 2 boxes. So the first thing they want us to do, first of all, we're not solving anything. We're just writing inequalities. So the first thing they want us to do is write an inequality that describes the weight limits in terms of X and Y. Anybody want to take a guess? Collins.
X plus Y and less than or
Boom. That's it. There it is. The 2 boxes together, when you add them, have to be less than or equal to 300. That is your answer to part A. Go ahead and read part B and see if you can write the inequality. Part B says, write an inequality that describes the limit on average, on the average weight A of the 2 boxes. So in other words, on average, what should each box weigh? So if they can both be 300, what should they weigh individually? About 150. So the average should be less than or equal to 150 for each box. Again, we're not solving, we're just writing. Go ahead and read part C and see if you can write that answer. That one's just a number. It says 2 boxes are to be placed on the conveyor belt. The first box weighs 175 pounds. What's the maximum weight of the second box? 125. If they cannot be more than 300, that means it's 300 minus 125. All right, we did just about all of the homework together. You only have 4 left. Get it done. Turn it in tomorrow. If you're planning to do a retake, you need to see me so I can have you scheduled for an appointment. And that is it, children. You made it.